All right, everyone. We are going to call this meeting to order. Today's emergency meeting. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we are going to go right through today's agenda, and we're going to start with a roll call.
Okay. Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Christina Kaiser. Roll call taken.
Excellent. 1B is a resignation.
Yes, so we've received a letter of resignation from school board member Jessica Brown. Per conversation with the New Hampshire School Board Association, the board is not obligated to fill that role. If you decide that you want to fill that role between now and the March election, you would need to post the vacancy, most likely interview at your January meeting. The person would then be sworn in after you vote them in at the January meeting, serve the February meeting, and then you would have elections before the person sat in March. So it would really be for one meeting. So that's why, practically speaking, they say you don't need to fill it, and practically speaking, it's challenging. So it's up to the board, obviously, but that is the guidance from the School Board Association.
Right. Any discussion from the board?
I just have one question. So let's say someone is looking for more information on what exactly being a school board member involves, as far as would it help to, only in the sense of getting more people to be involved come March election, does it change, like offering it as a vacancy, even if it is a month? I know that seems really, but I just don't know. That would be my only question, is does it give people more information to come March time, that they would be more willing?
I mean, I would say that regardless of whether or not we decided to move forward with getting a fifth board member, that having that information out there would be important anyways, just for anyone who wanted to, throw the name as a candidate in March.
Okay.
The filing period for the open school board seat starts January 19th and runs through the 28th of January. So that's the filing period for candidates for open board positions.
I think it's more important to focus on putting that out there
So we have time to make that decision. We don't have to make the decision now.
So we could,
I would say if you want to fill the position, you should decide that now, because otherwise you won't decide it until January, and then the person won't serve.
Great. Okay.
so do we have any more discussion on this? How do we feel about maintaining before or adding it to?
I mean, I'd be all for either. But I think at this point, the structure that she's saying, they want you to sit for. I thought there would at least be like one,
Yeah, they'd actually have
possibly
one
two,
full meeting or something.
that they could be involved in. But at this point, if that's how the process has to go, it seems like to me.
How do you
But
feel?
I'm open either way. I don't care if they. I'm open to both.
So how does that work? If you have only one applicant, then you can choose not to fill it, or if you have 5 applicants, you can choose not to fill it, or you can fill it. How does that work?
So right now, you're accepting the resignation, and you have to make the decision whether to fill it or not, period.
That doesn't answer my question.
I know, but that really isn't relevant, right? You're just deciding whether or not you want to fill it. If you decide you want to fill it and you have applicants, you can decide to appoint an applicant or decide not to. But the first decision you have to make is whether or not you're opening it up to fill the position.
But time-wise, they will not sit for
They
any
will sit
meeting.
for one meeting.
They
the
will sit for
February
one
meeting.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I don't think there's a reason to fill it.
I actually agree with you. Yep. I didn't say actually, I mean, like, I agree, I know, right? Do we need to take an official vote on that, or can we?
You don't.
Great, we're unanimous, we will keep it 4 in lieu of the time frame and focus on March's election instead. Excellent. All right, Meredith, do you have a COVID update?
I think your next item was the computer bid award.
First of all, I think you have to do a motion to accept the resignation.
Well,
Sure
thank
as
you
you
very
can.
much. I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Jessica Brown.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Regretfully.
Aye.
I'll mark it unanimous. Okay. Vote taken.
Sorry, Meredith, I'm looking at the wrong agenda.
Oh, that's okay.
All right.
Look at Mondays.
Me too, I'm going to the computer now. All right, the second line of new business is the award of bid computers.
Correct. So included in your packet was information regarding the bids received from several vendors. We sent bids directly to 9 vendors and received bids from 5. The administration recommends awarding the bid to Connection Public Sector in the amount of $64,215, and this budget was the low bid, and funding to this purchase is budgeted in the CARES grant.
Okay, so basically we're just accepting the bid that's on here, and it looks like you did go with the lower bid. Do we have any discussion from the board? All right, well, I will make the motion to accept the award of bid for $64,215 with Connection Public Sector. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
I'll mark it unanimous. Vote passed.
Fabulous. All right, and we are on number 3, continuing business with the COVID update.
So I've shared data with the board along the way. We currently have 21 active cases at Seabrook Middle School and 14 active cases at Seabrook Elementary School. The middle school is still in outbreak status, and as of yesterday, we had a cluster identified at Seabrook Elementary School. I shared also with the board some data over the course of the year. At the elementary school today, we had 89 absences as well as about a dozen dismissals. Brian, is that correct?
Yep.
And at the middle school, I think we had 64 absences, as well as some dismissals. So we don't have a large percentage of our population. It's over 25% at the elementary school out. And if you look at the data over the course of the week, that number has climbed. That's concerning. We're here to deliver education. We're missing a quarter of our population. That's a challenge. My recommendations to the board have not changed with respect to masking. I would urge the board to consider that. If you look at the data that I shared in chart form from the middle school, you will see absences that are quarantined between September 1st and yesterday. If you look, numbers were pretty steady. You see it drops to 0 from mid-October to the beginning of November. That's when masks were worn at the middle school. And you can see the steady climb beginning in mid-November to where we are today. So that's the COVID update.
Okay, so with the, thank you for that information, Meredith. Board discussion.
I want to make sure that we, no matter what decision we make, that everyone is on the same page to say that we're all obviously voting, regardless of how we vote, we're voting for kids, and we're voting for staff, and we're voting for whoever is in the building that we need to be responsible for in some form or fashion. And I think it's important to say that, I mean, and I can only speak for myself in this, that I don't have the right answers, and I don't think that regardless of what we choose to do, I don't want this to be like a bullying either way, or to think that one side is right, one side is wrong. Everybody, I think, is on the same page that they want the best for, I mean, as many kids as possible. And my biggest thing is to have kids have the best Christmas. I mean, because that's what's looming and that's what's here. And I think we also, it is important to note that obviously not every absent is COVID, but there's a stomach bug, there's bad colds, there's all those things. And even if those things are involved, I don't want my kid or anybody's kid to have that for Christmas either. So I think that that's just important. I just want to put that out there. That's not, we don't I could say we, because I know that you guys agree, but we don't make any decision lightly. And so any decision that we make and whatever we come to the conclusion of, we don't want it to be considered that we did this for any other reasons than whatever we think is best for the collective group. So that's just all.
Well said as well. This is a very tricky, it's a very tricky topic. Kelly, do you want to say anything?
So, like you said, the absences are not all COVID related. I think the numbers are very misleading. I think that when you give us a list of students that are absent without a breakdown of how many that are actually confirmed COVID cases, it can be tricky. Putting down that the quarantining could be that there's family members that are quarantining, but they may not even result in a positive case. I think we need to take that into consideration. I also think that in the past, we've also known about situations where students are quarantining because the parents don't want to test them. So they may never even be positive. I do know that there, just one situation today where I work, there was a call that was made that a student needed to go home because they had a runny nose and the teacher was uncomfortable. The student had already had COVID 3 weeks ago. So I think that when you have 12 kids being dismissed, how many other calls are coming in like that? And it's sad because you want to believe that the parents are not sending their kids to school sick. And I think that's what is really ultimately causing this to be hard for us, because we were under the understanding when we put no masks into place that people were going to keep their kids home sick. And they're sending them to school sick. On the flip side of that, I think a lot of the parents are afraid to keep their kids home with a runny nose because people are going to assume they had COVID. And if they know their kid's not sick and they don't have a fever, they're sending them home to school. The flu, strep throat, everything has been going on for centuries, and we have not masked our children. So I'm just asking that if we're in this meeting and we're going to discuss masks, that we put the fact that kids are sick with anything other than COVID on the back burner, because if we're going to start masking kids because they have a runny nose or they have strep throat, or we might as well just mandate masks in the handbook forever. So I think now we're dealing with COVID. We're not dealing with strep throat. We're not dealing, and the fact that the numbers are including those is very misleading. I probably called 15 schools today. We are the only ones that are optional, and the numbers are very similar. Salisbury Elementary right now is at 7.7%. Their elementary school, and we are at, the number that I had was 10 active cases at 2.5, and they are masked. There's many. And I do just want to mention one more thing, that I can't speak for the middle school because I've never had this situation, and I don't want to say something that's not true, but I do know the elementary school, if you call your child in sick, they ask, is it COVID related? If you call one of Connect, they say, who are you calling in for? Mary Smith. Okay, she's all set, thank you. They're not even asking if it's COVID related. So parents aren't given that information. These numbers to me are not accurate. So I just think that we have to look at all sides. We have to look at the fact that yes, Christmas is coming, and no, we don't need any more COVID cases. But we also have to look at how much further are we going to take this? We just had a vaccination clinic on November 19th and December 10th, if I got the dates correct. We've offered people to get their kids vaccinated from 5 to 11 years old. I mean, we can't offer any more. And I would just hope that everybody in this room who wants a mask, their kid was in that line. And if they weren't in that line, then don't ask me to put a mask on someone else's child. And I also, without looking at people or pointing out names, I know people in this room, and I will never call out names because I know I can't, that I have pictures that have been on Facebook of them in a bar, hugging each other with no mask on, that they are pushing for us to mandate their kids with a mask. I'm not going to tell somebody they have to wear a mask when you're not following what you're asking me to do for these children. And that's how I feel. And I think you already know where I stand on this, and that is exactly why I'm going to do it. If they had a mask on, 100%, you know what? I respect your decision. I will think about what you have to say. But when you're telling me to put a mask on their kids, and you're at a bar hugging other people without a mask on, to me, I'm sorry, I can't respect that. That's just, to me, unfair.
No, and Kelly, you make some really good points with the data portion of it. I mean, I definitely can understand how kids being absent from either strep throat or stomach bug or whatever can get kind of like bunched into those COVID-19 numbers, absolutely. But I think the challenge with COVID is that when a student's out, it may take a few days for them to actually get that test result back.
Right.
So to make that decision whether or not it's COVID related or not and not use those numbers, again, it makes it dicey. I see that. I see that point. Personally, I am really glad you did bring up that point about parents making sure that when their kids are sick to keep them home. It's something that I know that we as a board have kind of struggled with because speaking to the public, we want to honor parent choice. It's ingrained in our town. I feel like more so than any other town around us. We want that parent choice. We don't want to have what we consider are our rights infringed on. And months ago, when we did make that difficult decision to lift the mask ban or just not to have masks in general, it was with the understanding that parents and families would keep their kids home when they were sick. I can tell you from personal experience that some parents are doing this. Some parents are making those really difficult decisions to have to take a day out of work and be there with their kids, to see if grandma and grandpa are available to watch them, or to find a way so that they are not coming into the school and potentially impacting another family's opportunity to not be sick. But I also can tell you that some families are not doing that. I see this in SAS, we see this in the school, and this is not to say that families don't have challenges that maybe are pushing them in that direction, but when someone makes the decision to send their child to school sick, you have now taken what would be that family's challenge and have turned it into multiple families' challenges. Now, because be it a stomach bug or strep throat or COVID or any of those things, we have now expanded those numbers. So can we say that there are connections between the numbers and students coming to school sick? Absolutely, we can say the connection. Can we prove causality? Can we say that this is the cause of the numbers going up? No, we can't do that. But it's definitely not contributing to the solution. I'm not a mask advocate. I do not love masks, but more so than wanting to wear a mask is that we need our kids to be in school getting educated. And when we look at these numbers that Meredith just gave us, 89 kids in the elementary, catch me if I'm wrong, 64 in the middle school, 25% of our population of students aren't in school to get educated.
36%.
36%. Even higher than what I was
Yeah,
saying.
right.
We're looking at a third here. I'm pretty good with my fractions. That's alarming. It's more than alarming. We know for sure these kids are not getting an education when they're not in school. And I know that we have had so great conversations in these meetings between the board, between the public. There have been, conversations about how it's impacting you personally, how it's on both sides, on every side. How it's impacting your ability to educate, or impacting your ability to work, or impacting your life in general. We heard all of these, and we've got all of this information, which seems like it would make our lives easier. But it actually makes it more difficult because now we really are trying to get a big macro level look at this community. But in my opinion, in my perspective, these numbers right here are really what are pushing me in that direction. It is not because I love masks. I don't. It is not because I think they work. I don't know if they do or not. I have no idea. All right? But these numbers right here, the only tool that we have left in our box that we have been putting in our back pocket, because let's face it, none of us have wanted to do this, are masks. I don't know if it will make a difference. I don't know if it will bring the numbers down. I have no idea, but I do know that that is the only tool we have left in our box. We have increased cleaning. We cannot separate our kids any more than they are because we do not have the space in the school. And we don't have a virtual school for students that want to do that this year.
Sorry, really quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
For that point, there's been a lot of discussion on why can we not just offer a remote option for people that are very concerned, that want to come home. let us reiterate the fact that we can barely staff inside the school, let alone anything additional outside of the school is like, I'm not sure how it would even be possible. So to have that as an option, it's not an option. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, because it's not us or Meredith or anybody else not wanting to do that. We don't have the staff. We don't have the staff to teach in the school. We definitely don't have the staff to teach extra out of the school. And I think requiring teachers in the classroom to teach both in person and remote at the same time is a ridiculous ask. And I'm sorry that I hope we never have to do that, because that would be bad. But I just think that that is not a possible thing. And to assume that any child would get a good education on a screen from a teacher that's trying to teach in person and remotely at the same time, I don't think is a reasonable ask. And I just wanted to say that that's why you're talking about remote learning, but continue, sorry.
I'm gonna be very honest, I've had so many conversations, so many great conversations with community members in the last couple of days. In fact, I had one today with a gentleman who is a hardcore Seabrooker. I love this guy to death. And he made some really great insights. And moving forward, there is some additional data that we definitely could look at and utilize as a foundation for making stronger decisions. And what that would be, Meredith, I'm hoping that we can get this hopefully at the January meeting, is what did we do before COVID was part of this? So for example, what I'd like to see, and I'm sure other community members, especially this gentleman, is what were our numbers of students that were absent during years, maybe the 2 or 3 years, or just 2, or whatever is the easiest, really the most relevant, before we had COVID. What were those numbers looking like? And if they were high, what did we do during that time to maintain that students got an education?
I can tell you anecdotally, we've never crossed above 20%.
And we're at 36 now.
Well,
Right.
I mean, that wasn't my math. My math was closer to 25 earlier today, but you could be right.
I thought that was
I think it was
I think-
89 out of 334.
I think seeing those numbers for the public would be really beneficial. And perhaps strategies that we've used that time. I don't know if these are documented or whatnot. To be honest, we do have some great seasoned educators here that have been through this.
In influenza pandemic, or epidemics, right? When you have outbreaks of influenza in your school, if you reach about 20%, DHHS and historically has shut schools down
Okay.
for a period of time for deep cleaning.
Have they have a mask?
That wasn't a recommendation for that virus. That is the recommendation from DHHS for this virus.
So like I said, when I look at the numbers for all these other schools that are not masked, the numbers are very similar. I mean, the middle school is higher. But the numbers, there's a lot of numbers here that are very similar, even in Exeter. Kensington Elementary is at 2.8. Seabrook Elementary is at 2.5.
But it's actually not 2.5.
Well, but it's not, it's still, they're all masked.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the other thing is that, so I'm going to assume, because I drop off the kids to go to school and I pick them up. There's more students that do not wear a mask by far than there is that wear a mask.
Have you heard of pressure though in the schools? Have you heard that students, because just from other feedback from people, I've heard that students feel that, even students that are being told that they need to wear a mask by their parents, not by obviously staff, but that they're feeling pressured to make that choice in the school because, like you said, there's plenty of people that are not wearing masks, and that is totally fine. I mean, that's the parent's choice. But
What
I
did you
think
say?
that's the
That's
parent's
the
choice.
parent's choice,
Yes,
right.
and that's what we decided. And when we made the decision to mask up for the short period of time that we did last time, the numbers were not as high as they are now. And so for us to follow, if we're going to follow, we're not following anybody else because we are the outlier. And that's totally fine because when we made the decision initially to not mandate masks, we were talking numbers in the community that were less than what's just in the middle school as of today. We had less numbers as a whole city than we do in our one school. And if you combine them together, obviously that's even more. But I think the whole process, I mean, I can see both sides. I can see you saying, well, what is masking for 5 days going to do? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not anybody from the health department. I don't have a doctorate in something important. But on the flip side of that, I can say, for the other people, what does it hurt for 5 days? I mean, really, like, what does it hurt?
I don't know, ask the parents who don't want the masks. That's
I totally-
their choice.
I
They brought their
totally
children up.
understand that. I totally understand that. But if we're talking about mental health and we're talking about students that, like, for parents that say that their student is mentally affected by wearing a mask, I think we also have to consider both sides, that there are students that are mentally affected by not wearing a mask or they're feeling concerned. So I think both are valid. I mean, I don't know, we can't, again, we're not saying one is right and one is wrong, because we're not the end all be all, but ultimately we need to make the decision. And so anybody individually can say whatever they want about, you know, this is how I feel, and that's totally valid, because opinions are, but that's the end. I mean, we can only go by what we see, we can go by the numbers, we can do whatever we want, but ultimately, we have to be the three that make this decision. So for anyone to put on anyone else, any parent from either side to say, this is right, this is wrong, you're wrong, it's not fair. Because everyone is trying to do what's best for their kid, but ultimately, we need to make whatever decision we feel like we can do at this point, because that's where we're at. Because again, these numbers, just in absences alone, is ridiculous. I mean, that's like, how can,
Christina, I know I
mad.
had 5 people in my house that all was sick and not one person had COVID. We were all sick.
Right.
And the girl down the street had 5. That's 10 people. 10 absences that had nothing to do with COVID.
I agree with you. I 100%
We're not here
agree.
about people being sick. We're here about COVID. We're here about putting a mask on the kids because of COVID. If COVID didn't exist, we would not be sitting here.
Would we have
You
this
also,
many acts?
you also just explained that those numbers are very convoluted, and it's hard to be able to decipher which ones. are
Exactly.
which
That's
ones are
why
sick.
I'm just saying that, you know what? It's the parent, it should be the parent's decision. You know, just like she just said, it's not fair. You're right, it's not fair. It's not fair, but it's not fair for me to sit here and mandate something to parents when they're not doing, when others are not doing the same thing that they're dictating to other people. You have to stand by what you believe in and show that example. And if you came to me and said, you know, Kelly, and you have a mask on, so I can take you serious, and it's not just sitting here, I've seen you outside with a mask on. And if you came to me and showed, you know, Kelly, I really think we need to mandate masks, I can sit here and look you in the face, and I can take you at face value. But when I see you at soccer games, or I see you at the rec center, at movie night, or I see you at Walmart shopping with all these Christmas shoppers, and you have no mask, but then you come to me and say, you know what, at the school board meeting, we need to mask these kids. I'm sorry, I'm gonna look at you like, I'm sorry, I really cannot have your back.
It makes your decision harder.
It doesn't make it, it's made my decision.
Yeah.
So it's an important conversation, it's a difficult conversation. It's a difficult conversation that we've been having for months. I just would encourage us to either put a motion on the table or move on.
I think
I think
emotions,
these are important facts.
they are.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I think that we definitely are covering bases that we've talked about earlier, either like we just discussed or in prior meetings. And I will go forward to the motion. Before I do that though, I'm gonna really ask that parents who are sending their kids to school sick, you can make the biggest difference in these discussions right now. You can make the biggest difference by not sending your students to school sick that are spreading germs. And I am not talking about COVID, I'm not just talking about strep, I'm talking about everything. Because these numbers don't lie right here. These are numbers of students absent from school. These are numbers of students that are not being educated.
Well, we had 12 sent home today.
So we had 12 sent home today and 89 absent.
12 were dismissed.
And that was
Right.
just the elementary.
They were dismissed.
64 in the middle school.
My kid was dismissed for a sore throat and he hasn't been back in a week.
Does he have COVID?
No!
And I would thank you that if you kept your kid home and he was still sick, then I would say thank you for doing the right
For
thing.
10 days? For a
I
sore
don't know
throat?
what
You
that-
guys are talking about the absences. Multiply that number she had by 10. Tenfold.
There you go. There's your statistic right there. If we've sent home a kid for a sore throat,
Which is
For
the
10
guidance from
days.
the Department
You
of
didn't have
Health
a
and
fever.
Human Services.
We're
right,
gonna-
but
we're gonna
putting a
ask
mask on them isn't gonna change it. If they come to school and they have a mask on and have a sore throat, they're still gonna go home for 10 days. You have 10 students like that, you're looking at 100 absences, total in the week.
So we could probably go back and forth on this for a very long time, and it can be heated really quickly because we all, we're actually doing public comment after
Wait, are
this.
you gonna do the motion without hearing from the
Yeah.
public?
Yeah, shouldn't you have public comment
Yeah,
before
we're
you
gonna-
make your motion? And
Because
let us- I mean,
that
what
just
else are
says
we
you
here
really
for
didn't
then?
care about us.
We're having a public
Sorry.
comment before the motion.
So we pushed public comment, passed the motion not to discredit anyone from having a voice. That was not the reason why. I'll be very honest, if we have board members that want to push that forward, we will do that. But the reason being is because we've, unless there's new
Because
data.
two of you have made up your minds already, regardless of the people that hear.
I don't think.
Yeah, several
I don't
meetings
think-
ago.
All right,
but
so this-
Respectfully, I think all three have made up their mind, and I think that's okay. I mean, no matter what your choice is, whether mask, no mask, whatever it is, I think it's okay to say, we have
So
all
you're not
looked at the
representing
data.
the majority, because you don't care what the majority is.
So we're
You're
not-
representing
we're
the
not
majority.
actually
There's plenty of
guys-
majority on
Now, my
both
son's
sides.
best friend tests positive, I keep him home for 10 days.
this-
Just because I don't want to put people through the
Phil,
bullshit
we're
that
gonna-
comes along with it.
This is not how we do public comment here, all right? So I'm gonna ask you guys, when public comment is open, to step to the podium, introduce yourself, and then you'll have the option to have public comment. We will not be having back and forth, board to public banter. And I mean that with respect.
Sorry, I almost said it backwards.
It's okay. I like
It's kind
God
of
words
concerning
too.
that we're gonna make a motion though before we even heard what they have to say.
Just if it's before the public comment, then like you really just absolutely are showing.
Mayor,
us you
there
care
seems to
nothing
be
about
a
what the
very
majority of
outpour of
people in here
public
want for our
comment.
town
I think
itself.
that's the board's
As public
decision. I would
servants.
say that we set a time limit
Kind
for
of
this
disgusting.
meeting.
If they cared, it
So
would've
this
been
meeting is
Monday.
scheduled to end at 5:15, so if we're
Last
going to
meeting.
do that, we should plan to
One
continue this
person
meeting on
voted
Monday.
last night.
I don't agree that we, the time limit, because these people voted us in and they pay taxes, and I'm not gonna tell them they can speak for 2 minutes if they have 5 minutes to say something. That, you know what?
Is there board policy in place for public comment? Just
I am
curious.
telling you that we set a time limit on
Yes.
today's
Okay.
meeting to end
So,
at 5:15.
we have an
so-
obligation to pass something tonight and to make a motion. And unless there's new information, which I'm thinking there's not, and there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of personal wanting to share that, I totally understand that, but we have heard public comment on masks for the last 3, 4, 5 months. We're aware of data on both sides. The board is knowledgeable over the stressors that on
You've
each
heard public
side.
comment on the new variant?
Phil, this is the second time I've asked you
On the new
not.
variant?
Okay, I'm just going to
That's
ignore you
interesting.
because this is not what we're going to do. I would like to make a motion to accept a mask mandate for the entire of the Seabrook School District until our February 8th meeting. That's what I'd like to pass. Do I have a second for that motion?
Shameful. You're gonna get a lot more absences.
Um,
Last time my kids.
I would have them out there.
So let's vote on this one. Don't. You
If
can
there's no
vote.
second, you can't vote.
Well, thank you.
What's your?
Seeing no second, you would then see if there are any other motions.
Perfect.
I would
You only vote, you
like
only get your friends to
to
vote.
make a motion to put a mandate in place up through the holiday break. And then,
I would strongly consider 2 weeks after the holiday break.
2 weeks.
It's your motion, though, so.
No, I understand this issue. Till the board, we have a board meeting and we have January 11th. So it would be 1 week post holiday. 5 days for now. A week of holiday break, 1 week post holiday.
To revisit.
We can revisit. January 11th is the next meeting.
For 7 days post-holiday.
I'm sorry, yeah. Oh, not a school week, I'm sorry. So, 5 days up until now, and then 7 days following holiday. And again, I say that with just wanting every kid to have a happy, healthy Christmas. And staff members.
We have how many days left? Tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday?
We have 5, yes, through Thursday, half day. So 4.5 days of school before the holiday of wearing a mask. And then 7 days upon return.
I think that is a better compromise than mine, so do you want to make the formal motion?
I would like to make a motion to implement a mask mandate up until the January 11th school board meeting, where we can reevaluate. So that would be the rest of this coming week, and then 7 days post-holiday.
So can I write it as motion to implement a mask mandate until the January 11th board meeting?
Yeah.
That would be a lot easier to start in, make it a little bit more difficult than necessary.
I will second that.
No.
So am I going to do,
I feel optional.
so am I opening online voting, or do you want me to do it? I mean,
It's up to you.
Either way.
and actually raise your hand so I can call your name out too, so that you can see it on the video camera. So motion passed 2-1.
Okay. Right, we are now going to move down to public comment. Yes.
Before you go, can you just remind them that I need their name and their relationship?
Affiliation.
Yeah.
I know the drill.
Thank you.
Roll with this now. Patrick Knott, 8A Whittier Drive. I got a kid in 2nd grade and a kid in 3rd grade. I understand this is all very difficult, but first of all, I think it's kind of a cowardice move to have this before the public comment. We all came here, took the time out of our nights to give you what our opinions are on this, and I know that everyone has been bombarded left and right, and not really thrilled with how that just went down, because all of us just took the time out of our days to come. I too pulled a whole bunch of numbers. The numbers are almost identical with these schools that have masks. You cannot look me in the face and tell me that the masks work. Due to social media outrage and everything else, I understand that we have to throw an emergency meeting together after we just couldn't have a regular meeting a few days ago. I know there's been people from Facebook that have been absolutely hounding school board members because they put up these polls and then they take them down, and things just, this is how things are going these days. But the masks don't work. You can't look at me, and just because you can say that this is the only thing we have to do, it's not. Our numbers are the same. Recovery rates are astronomically high for COVID-19. I see it day in and day out on the ambulance. The idea that we're gonna sit here and make policy over basic nature and how these things are moving, we didn't put kids in masks for the flu. Kids come back to school a day and a half after they have the norovirus, which is just as contagious as COVID. The idea that we have to do something to appease the few people that have made the most amount of noise over this, your numbers for your sick for this last week will go up. Yet again, they will be used against us because they'll say people were out, because people said they're not gonna send their kids to school with a mask on or without. We had our option. I don't understand how kids are getting bullied into or out of wearing a mask. That sounds like something that the administration is supposed to handle, bullying and issues like that in the classroom, which I'm not seeing that. Like, my kid doesn't wear a mask. I know he's a very kind individual and doesn't care that people are wearing masks or not. This is kind of how we've all grown up now. The idea that we have to do something is not always better than doing nothing. Our numbers are the same as most of these schools. Salisbury is looking to go remote because they have like 37 cases in their school right now, plus the Triton High School. And guess what? They're all masked up. I second Kelly's opinion of, I see teachers and administrators, everyone out doing whatever they want, and I support that. I 100% want everyone to get up, get out. But this idea that we're gonna take away somebody's holiday due to COVID and that these masks are gonna absolutely work, that's ridiculous. You've now taken the choice out of a few people's hands and put it in your own to appease the people that already had their option to wear a mask. and to make all the motions before the rest of us can get up here and talk, not a huge fan of. Plus, we're already down one board member that just resigned and another board member's not here. We're doing stuff like haphazardly. There's other people that could have participated in the vote. I don't think it's gonna work. Your numbers are gonna go up. You're gonna use them against us. And I really think that you've just now taken away our parents' choice, and I'm not really thrilled about it.
Hi, my name's Madeline Gagnon, and I work at the middle school. I just want everybody to know that whether a child has a mask or no mask on, they're all treated the same by us. Whether a teacher is vaxxed or not vaxxed, we all love each other. We do not think of 6 feet, 3 feet. When your child needs help, or has a bad day and needs a hug, they get what they need. But lately, let's say the last few weeks, maybe since Thanksgiving, when we get together and talk, with the door closed, of course, at lunch or wherever we are at the time, the teachers that are not vaxxed, or have even their families are not vaxxed, and that's their choice, well, they even feel now, since our emails, one day there's 7, one day there's 5 kids, one day there's 3, even the people that are not vaxxed and their children are not vaxxed, feel that there should be a mask mandate. They have a choice of their shots, but they feel like in school, it's not safe. And these are people that are not vaxxed, and their family's not vaxxed, and they don't wear masks. The teachers do because we need to. But I don't want anybody to think, I know where I work, when your child needs something comforting, a pat on the back, to be this close to me because they have something to say, they do it. And I had COVID, and yes, I had my shots, and kids spread because I got COVID from my 8-year-old daughter, granddaughter that lives in Maine, and that's how I got it. And I was scared because I'm like 60. And luckily, I passed, and it was okay. But right now, like I'm saying, the people that are not vaxxed, teachers, they come to school every day, and we wear masks, and they wear masks, but they feel at this point, every child should be masked. And that's just from the teachers that are not vaxxed. And I just want to say that your kids get everything they need, from a hug to, and it's not, doesn't matter if it's 3 feet or 6 feet or what. I just want to
If
share
your
that.
mask works, then why should the
No,
kids
thank
have
you.
to?
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Erica McDonald. I have 2 daughters in the Seabrook school system. I live on Railroad Ave. My daughter brought to my attention this morning that she was in gym, it was either yesterday or the day before, and they were sitting in a circle, and there was a woman that had come in. She said, I don't recognize her. I'm not sure if she's a staff member. I think she's a pod teacher. I'm not sure if that's accurate. And she said she came over and was handing out masks. And I said, well, did you take one? And she said, no. She said, and then she shook it in front of my face. And I said, did you take it then? And she said, well, yeah, I kind of felt like I had to. And I said, okay, well, you know, that's not really cool to me. And she said, then she went along and said, if you guys don't wear masks, you're not gonna be able to have a good Christmas and you're gonna have to quarantine. Now, I respect if you wanna vaccinate your child and you wanna mask your child, that's your prerogative as a parent, and I respect that. I expect the same respect in return. And it bothered me that someone, not sure if she is a staff member or not, had the audacity to bring masks in and think that her opinion overrode any parents. And the fact that she said that and held Christmas over these kids' heads to get them to comply and wear a mask. I don't agree with that. I know you guys weren't part of it, so it's not towards you. But I, as a parent, am really angry because, you know, my kid already has, you know, anxiety and all this other stuff, and anything like this added to it, I don't need it. And I just think it was insanely inappropriate, and I think she should be spoken to, and I don't think that something like that should be allowed. So that's just.
I agree with you, and for the board,
Yeah.
shares that as well. What I would advise you to do, considering that there was no mask mandate at that time, so you're 100% in the right here, I would be frustrated as well. I would try to find out who that individual was and maybe speak.
I have her name, but then again, my daughter said, I'm almost positive that's her name. She said, but I never saw her before. She said, but it was something along the lines of this. So I'm willing to share the name and
I did not understand.
I think definitely,
Yeah,
Yeah, I will-
speak with the principal,
Okay.
and they can follow up with you.
Yeah, it was middle school, so you're middle school? Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you
I don't know anything about
afterwards.
that. I'm happy to speak to you about that. I will be glad to
Okay.
follow up on that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Melanie Eaton. I have 2 children in the school, and I have 1 in the high school. I have a 4th grader, and I also have a 7th grader. And I would like to start by saying that I know I have great children. They're well behaved, they're well respectful. They'll respect the rules, whatever they're told to do, whether they're at home or they're at school, and we can appreciate that. But I just want to ask a few questions of the numbers right now, right? We're basing things off of numbers, and we're inducing fear, right? That's, to me as a parent, I'm hearing fear when I hear numbers, right? But you can't give me a proper breakdown as to what those numbers actually mean. So let's just, for an example, change of weather. Change of weather plays a factor in children getting sick, whether if it's runny nose, it's a sore throat. My child came home one day and the change of weather happened. We had a couple days of beautiful weather. Then we had a day of terrible weather, right? That plays a factor in a child feeling sick. It does. It does on an adult as well. Okay, but now as a parent, years ago, we would send a child to school with a sore throat because it was normal. It was absolutely normal during this time of the year. We would deal with children that had sickness. It was normal. Now we have COVID-19, so everything is based off of COVID-19. So there are parents who are doing what their job is, and some parents are not, and I get that. A sore throat, but maybe they tested their child. Maybe they did. But it's not your business to know that. So they send their child to school. But that teacher feels that runny nose, you put me in fear, so I want you to go home. How does that make that child feel? I can tell you that makes that child feel in fear to ever tell a teacher, I'm not feeling well. Here's a prime example today. Prime example. My child, who had 7 vials of blood taken from her body today because of other medical reasons, she went to school, she came down with a headache because she knew she was dehydrated. She knew it, 7 vials of blood, and I didn't drink water, Mom, I'm sorry. I came down with a headache. She went to the nurse said, well, are you vaccinated? Well, no, I'm not. Well, that's your problem, that's why you're sick. That was the nurse, that was SAU 21's nurse today telling my daughter that. How dare you, as a school nurse, tell my child that? You made my child fear of going to a nurse for a couple of aspirin because she felt dehydrated. My other child in school had a couple cough drops, feeling a little sick because change of weather. She came down with a little sore throat. I knew my child wasn't sick. I'm not going to tell you that because it's my business at home what I did with my child. I'm not going to call you and tell you I took a test on my child to make sure she didn't have COVID-19. She asked the nurse, can I have a couple cough drops? Nurse's response was, well, take them slowly because if you keep on taking them, it's going to put me at risk. And I'm going to have to make a phone call. That's my 7th grade child. Shame on you. Now that I kept this to myself because you know what, things happen and I get it. I get it. But I'm hearing numbers and I'm hearing school board members not thinking of the parents' choice. You made a choice on behalf of us before we could actually say anything. Not where I want to be with my school board. Not at all. So tell me, masks, are they going to work in school? If we make them wear in school, are we making them wear in Walmart, Market Basket, the rec center? Are we still sending our children to their school activities after school and playing sports who are not mandating the mask? No, we're not. But we're going to mandate the mask in school because it's going to save things. No, it's going to make people feel it's going to save things. That's what you're doing. You're not giving me a solution. So I want to know, last year, my son came home with red stuff all over his mask when masks were mandated. Mason, why do you have red stuff all over your mask? Well, I had wings today. Wings? What'd you do with your mask? Well, I put it underneath my chin. Well, all right, Mace. Well, did the teacher instruct you to go wash your hands before you put that wing to your mouth? No. So, all right. Now let's masks. Let's play the mask game. The mask goes down, the mask goes up. We're touching our face, we're touching our nose, we're touching our lips, we're touching our eyes, as we're touching everything else around us. How's that mask going to prevent anything from happening? It's not. It's not. None of us here in this room can tell us what's going to prevent this from happening, but I can tell you behaviors can help prevent a spread. That's normal behaviors that I can teach my children, which I do, but I have a 9-year-old who doesn't listen to me. Does he go touch his keyboard and does he touch his mouth? Does he go touch his remote? Absolutely. That's what a 9-year-old boy does. But that mask is not going to save him from anything. It's going to make someone else next to him fear and think that it's going to make them feel safer. And that's just not where we want to be as adults. That's not making my child feel safe. That's not preventing anything from happening. It's making you feel good. So are we here to make people feel good, or are we actually here to help prevent things from happening? Because, believe me, if you're telling my son to wipe down his desk when he gets in the morning, okay, that's a great behavior. Because I do, when I go to my work every day, I wipe down my keyboard, I wipe down my phone, because I have no idea who sat at my desk the night before. So it's a normal behavior, but I've been doing that well before COVID-19. So are we teaching our kids to wipe down the doorknobs? I really don't know what the precautions or what we've put in place here in the school to help prevent spread. But as a parent, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that you've told my child to take out a Lysol wipe and wipe down his desk. And his pens and his pencils. My child, I don't know. Spray down Lysol, I don't know. Or before they eat lunch, because are we even letting our children leave the classrooms now?
Not elementary.
Not elementary. My son stays in his classroom the entire time. So am I getting told as a parent that my child has been instructed to go wash his hands before he eats? Who can here tell me that? Anyone?
Are you asking if children wash their hands?
Are you telling me that the teachers are instructing the children to go wash their hands? Because my son tells me he doesn't.
We are.
And all you're not all here. You are telling me that not all teachers are here to tell me that you're instructing all children to do that. You're not. So I thank you for your own classroom, but not every classroom is the same. I'm telling you about my child's classroom. I'm talking on behalf of my child. So again, as a parent, you cannot tell me that it's 100%. You can't. So I applaud you if you're doing it. I really am. And as a parent, if you want options for your children, you can send your children to school wearing a mask. It's called an option. But as a parent like myself, where I know that mask does nothing for my child, because he doesn't wear it when he goes to Walmart, he doesn't wear it when he goes to the rec center. So what's the difference? What is the difference? You can't tell me that. But you just made a choice on behalf of all of the parents. And thank you very much. Because you didn't think of the parents. You didn't even think of all of the children. You're putting a check in the box to make some feel good. That's what it comes down to, is making a feel good. That's not where we want to be as a school board member. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
My name is Chris Huber. I have two twins. Twins in the middle school. I just think that since COVID started, I think all common sense went out the window. Right off the bat, everybody said 6 feet apart, but yet everybody had to go to the same entrance at Walmart. So how does that make sense? If you want to stay 6 feet apart, but you have to go in the same door. So right off the bat, I didn't feel like this was, made sense at all. I just think the simple choice is we live in a free country, and we should be living free. That means that I have the right, the freedom to make choices for my children. We're sitting in a room, picture of Abraham Lincoln. He spoke for freedom. He wanted everybody to be free. People who started this country, they came here because they wanted to be free. They didn't want someone to tell them what they can and can't do. I think the obvious choice is stand for freedom. I have the choice to wear a mask because that's my freedom. You have the choice to wear a mask because that's your freedom. I don't want to wear a mask because I don't think it works. That's what I think, and that's my freedom. I live in the state because part of the motto is live free. Why don't we just live free? Stop telling me what to do. Because that's the way it should be. That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ruth DeSilver and I teach special ed here. And I just wanted to say thank you for your vote, and I think it gives us a chance to see if numbers will go down. So it'll be curious what will happen because of it. My concern with students being sent home, that often they're home for 10 days. So they're missing their instruction. They're missing, if they're special ed, they're missing their services. And we're here for the kids and want to see that they're able to be here and educated. That's all I wanted to say.
Hi, my name is Rachel Turcott. I have 3 kids currently in school. My question is, we are going to break, right? We have New Year's Eve on the 31st, and then 2 days later we're going to come back to school. And we're going to wear masks until the 11th. I get that, but that you're going to make a second decision on the 11th based on numbers you see with those masks on, if they're still going up to continue. My question is that if everyone's doing New Year's plans, you have 10 days of quarantining after this massive event that, I mean, I even plan to go do regular things, and then it hit me, I'm like, wait a minute, probably not a great idea if they're going back to school 2 days later. Is if you're going to make a second decision on January 11th, that is taken into consideration before you make them wear a mask again for a following month. And for us to this was our only last resort for our toolbox. What about a mass quarantine after something like that? What about having everyone return on the 11th instead of the 2nd? Trying to curb that maybe, instead of making everyone wear masks longer, or potentially ruining more sporting events for kids. If more schools don't want to play them, they could cancel these games, right? If our numbers keep going up in January, and then we come to this board meeting and do this again. Just trying to find a way to, if we have to mask, not be for the whole year. What is another option? I mean, to me, that huge event, and then coming 2 days later. We just did that with Thanksgiving, and look what's kind of happening. Whether it's COVID or not COVID, it's kind of happening. So I ask that you guys keep that in consideration when January 11th comes, making a mask, if you decide to keep the mask mandate, that you take into consideration that there was a massive event 10 days before that, and that may not follow after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Andrew Wallace, President of Seacoast Education Association. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I just want to give a shout out to the teachers of Seabrook. I want to give a big shout out. I want to recognize the heroic work being done right now for the students in this town during an incredibly stressful time. This year has been pretty overwhelming for everybody, so we're really not trying to compare or contrast our experiences with anybody else's. But I'd just like to acknowledge the incredible efforts of the staff working alongside families and administrators to provide the support that our students need to succeed in their social, emotional health and their academic pursuits. Thank you, teachers, staff, administrators, and parents for your continued strength and the countless hours you've all invested in Seabrook students this year. Thank you, board members, for calling this meeting, and thank you for your time.
I have to say something. The next time you have a union meeting, would you please be sure to post that so that parents can go to your meeting and speak on behalf of their children as well? Because every time we have a meeting that we're trying to represent the students and their parents, you're representing the teachers who have already been represented by you, and we voted in with their wishes. So I'm just not understanding why we continue to have a union rep come in when a meeting, I feel, even though it is public, is to represent the students and the parents. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Are union meetings public?
No.
Or no?
No.
Other public comment?
Chris Seabrook, 2 kids. So now that you've mandated masks, so does that mean that everybody that is absent gets to come back to school now? So that solved the absent problem? It didn't solve the absent problem. So what did we do?
To answer your question, I don't normally back and forth, but I know you really well. And it's the duration. So when we meet again in January 11th, we'll take a look at those numbers again. It's the duration of using the mask. So it wouldn't be just we have a mask mandate now and every kid can come back in because regardless of whether you're sick, it's not.
Right, so it didn't really make a difference. I mean, so obviously masks do not make a difference because it didn't change anything. It just frustrated this whole room. So I just think this meeting was a wash because, I mean, now I'm more aggravated because now my kid has to have a mask on to come to school. And now his germs are gonna fester in the mask all day long. So more than likely, he's gonna end up with another cold or a flu.
Well, his immune system's obviously going to go down because, again, he's not going to be subjected to germs.
And, and there was a couple points where they're only gonna wear a mask in school. I mean, I'm not gonna make my kid wear a mask to Walmart. I'm not gonna make my kid wear a mask anywhere else. He's only gonna wear a mask to school. And I don't understand, why not it be optional? I mean, that's the choice. I mean, if you're wearing a mask, and I'm not, you should probably not get sick from me. I mean, how was my germs gonna get in your mouth if you're wearing a mask? It just does not make sense. I guess that's it.
I just have another question though. As a school board member that since you've mandated it, I need to know what was the basis on making that decision. What is it going to do for us?
To be honest, do we know the answer? No, we don't. And I would like to just, again, reiterate the fact that we're not making decisions unilaterally to say we are God and that we make decisions for everyone and this is the end of it. Yes, it seems like that. It seems like we're just making these decisions and we're just taking choice away and we're doing all these things. But I think it's important to consider the fact that we cannot say that a majority either way feels one way or the other. I think it's important to know that there are people on both sides and I think both sides are valid. Again, I wouldn't say that I can guarantee you that masks will work and I can guarantee you that our numbers will continue to go up without masks. Not to say that the masks will be the end-all be-all and that is the only option from here on out that will change it. But I think it would be irresponsible, in my mind, it would be irresponsible of myself to not consider both sides. And if we're saying that, if someone's telling me one person is bullying me and I'm hearing it from both sides, we're all, and I don't want to say all, a lot of people are guilty of bullying one another into things that they feel is right. And I'm not saying that the opinions are wrong, but for one side or the other to bully each other into a decision, and again, I'm not saying you're doing this, I'm just saying. But it is irresponsible and it is unfortunate to assume that if parents, teachers, staff members, community members, if we're bullying each other to make one decision or the other, then why are we expecting our children to treat each other any differently? Why are we expecting, we keep talking about bullying in the school, we keep talking about these things, but we're doing this. I guarantee you that the Facebook page will be blowing up with both opinions, and that's okay, because that is freedom of speech, and by all means, you can share however you feel. But to personally attack one side, or the other side, or whatever, I think is not okay. And again, I'm not saying you're doing this, it's just with the mask.
No, because I'm a parent that's speaking on behalf of my children.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
My children don't wear them. It certainly doesn't do anything for them, and they know that. So, but now it's being mandated on my children to wear their mask. But we all know that my children are going to be touching their face constantly, right? Touching their nose, touching their eyes. And it's not doing it, it's actually putting more harm in them. It really is. So we're going to go on break. Our lives outside of this place is not going to change. Everyone's still going to go out to their families. They're all still going to go out to the rec center. They're going to go to Walmart. They're going to go to Market Basket. They're going to go do their Christmas shopping. And they're not wearing masks. But we're going to come back on January something, and we're still gonna be mandated to wear a mask, and then you're gonna have another meeting on January 11th, and you're gonna base that decision again because maybe numbers have gone down. I mean, you're not putting any sense to me. There's no sense to this.
So as a school board member, we don't condone bullying, but we're actually bullying because we're telling the parents they're going to put a mask on their kids. And if they don't like it, then they're gonna get that phone call.
And you're absolutely right.
I'm
So
looking at Erin, I don't know if she wants to say something.
the problem is that we got Facebook.
So,
We have
I mean,
teachers that are
right,
constantly
so-
making comments on Facebook.
They're
So now
really-
parents are feeling that
Yeah.
they're being attacked.
That we don't
Okay, so then a
appreciate
parent,
that.
then a
That's not the
parent
case.
then reaches back out because it's not where we want to be as administration. I pay my taxes and I have to listen on and look on Facebook and I have to look at teachers making comments, right? Making me feel that I'm being a bad parent because I'm not putting a mask on my child's face. But yet, you could go on vacation and you can go post your social media pages of you and on your vacation, not wearing a mask and having a great time. Well, you lost me. You absolutely lost me as a parent. And it's happening. But now I have to put a mask on my child's face that we know that means absolutely nothing. It does not prevent anything from happening. It does not. It's a feel-good. But thank you for mandating that and making me as a parent mandate that on my child. Because you cannot in this room tell me that it's going to prevent my child from getting COVID. It's not. It's a feel-good. Thank you.
So like I was saying, I think that making a parent put a mask on a child is we're basically bullying them. Because I can tell you right now, I was here one morning when we had the mask mandate, and I sat in the office, and I watched a parent have to come pick up their child because they weren't wearing a mask. And do you know what that child felt like, knowing that they were being taken out of school because their parent felt what was best for them was not acceptable in the school? I think we really need to address maybe the real issue in the school, and that is the bullying, and it's not, it isn't, no, I'm gonna say it. That, we need to address the real issues and let the parents make choices for their children, and in the meantime, let's address what's really going on in the school, and we all know what that is.
All right, let's stay on topic with the public comments. We can give you guys the attention you deserve. Yes.
Hi, how are you? I think people, Phil Scolati, father.
What is it, Phil Scolani?
Yeah, I've spoken at every one of these.
Okay, I'll leave
My
it.
name's in them.
Thank you.
So, we have our administrators here, it's nice. They forget that they too are public servants. They're paid by our tax dollars, they're not servants of the union. So, it's nice to know that, that some of them think that they're not that. And I've heard of some bullying from the administration as well. And I think people forget that, when you are paid by the taxpayers of a community, and you betray the taxpayers of a community, then sometimes you can find yourself being driven out, and the people that are close knit in the community
Sorry,
be the
I'm
school
gonna
bus
suggest that
drivers.
as a
But outside of that, let me get back to the COVID thing. Omicron. How many people has it killed in the years worldwide? 77 countries. How many? One. Old people are dying. The comorbidities are not dying. Immunocompromised are not dying. The people who talk in a very unhinged voice because, at Walmart they're comfortable and at Market Basket I see them, they're comfortable, but, their friends aren't dying. Nobody's dying. But you say trust the science, which coming from academia amuses me because trusting science is exactly anti-science. You're supposed to try to poke holes in the science. And over time, science evolves. And what we have right now is an evolving virus. Mutations. The mutations have gotten weaker. So now we have something that's more contagious, but it's not killing people. So now what we're doing is what? We're putting masks on people because we're afraid to get sick. We're causing almost like a dysphoria in people because they're still caught up in the narrative from the first one. And the first one was deadly. The first one did kill old people. The first one did take out comorbidities. But here we are now with something that is not killing people. Yet, we have academia, we have all these people sitting there afraid to be mildly inconvenienced. Parents afraid to be mildly inconvenienced by a sickness that's not killing anybody. How do you have children if you're afraid of sickness?
Yeah.
They're sponges for sickness. Yet here we are. Bullied on every level because we want choice. Using a mask to prevent, a mask that's 75 to 95 nanos is what it's spec'd down to block. To block something that's 0.11 nanos, to block something that even at its height killed less children than the 2019 flu season. Up until this point, it's killed more than 2.5 times. It's killed less than 2.5 times the children in the 2019 flu season. Yet here we are. Now it's killing no one. We shouldn't even be testing at this point. Until people are dying, what are we even testing for? We're testing for little sicknesses that we're afraid of now? I mean, I think some of these people made some really bad decisions based on not doing research and based on looking at the older science and not looking at what's going on right now. And maybe you want to appease some people, I don't know, but I think that doing it before the people had a chance to speak, before reviewing science, before getting yourself really fully equipped with the information to maybe challenge the things that are being presented to you in a way that is scientific, I think that that's really put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth in our community because you did it before anyone had a chance to speak. You acted as a rulership instead of as representation. That's painful. That actually hurts. And, you know, I know some people may be afraid of losing support for some of the programs that they're in and stuff, but you never underestimate the power of public funding and public support. So, you know, even things that could be viewed as a weakness for some people, something that could compromise somebody because they're afraid of having something that they care deeply about being hurt. There's no need to be afraid because you can always know that you can count on the people that love you and that respect what you do for public support, financial and otherwise. Anyway, with that being said, thank you to everybody who listened to me ramble. For the folks in the union that have pushed an agenda very, very hard and run it through the school system and everybody else, I appreciate you. And hopefully we make more wise decisions and informed decisions in the future.
Any other public comment? All right, without any show of hands, we are going to end public comment. And we are going to go down to personnel.
We need a non-public.
I make a motion to go into non-public.
Second.